Welcome to the Kirk Miller Podcast. I'm absolutely delighted today to have one of my favourite human beings on the podcast. He's smiling at me. The very infectious man mountain of a man, Keegan Hirst. I've known Keegan now for probably only a couple of years, but I feel our friendship has accelerated at a phenomenal rate. But I'm really excited about bringing him onto the podcast today because he has a phenomenal story. He has played over 320 games of professional rugby league. He was the first British rugby league player to come out as gay after being married with 2 kids, and I'm sure he'll elaborate on his story just now.
No, that's it.
Okay. And he's also, just like myself, he's a cover star in his own right, which is Attitude magazine. And aside from that, the reason we obviously first connected, Keegan also has a phenomenal online coaching business where he is the world's #1 online coaching business service for gay men. Like myself, he's just absolutely obsessed with helping these guys get in the best physical shape of their life, but more importantly, it's the mental shift and the identity shift, which I'm sure as we unpack comes from Keegan's story himself. So, mate, first of all, I know you've come a long way by UK terms.
I thought you meant metaphorically then.
no, logistically, obviously, where me and Keegan, we joked about this before we started. Obviously, we were both come from council estate backgrounds, very rough and ready backgrounds. But I say a long way. Where you travel from today?
Halifax,
what's that? A couple of hours. So
yeah, 2.5 hours or so.
I don't know about you, mate, but you know when I was obviously I'm not based in Dubai now, London. It sounds fancy and all this stuff. But when I was in Coventry, I used to look at long journeys being like 15 minutes was a big dent. If I had a friend who'd say like, "Oh, do you want to come across and see me?" That was a big ask.
Yeah.
Even Coventry to Birmingham, you plan that weeks in advance.
Yeah.
Now it's sort of like...
Yeah, I was like that about someone wanting me to go to Manchester. An hour.
Exactly. Exactly. So no, I really appreciate you coming down, mate. And I'm really grateful to have you as one of my first few guests on the Kirk Miller Podcast. So look, I mean, there's so much to unpack with your story, mate. I mean, obviously, I know where you're at now and where you're trying to go, and we'll obviously, elaborate on that as we go. But where did the Keegan Hirst story start? You know, where were you brought up? Give the listeners a little bit of a background on where you first brought up. How did life start?
Keegan Hirst in a nutshell, the footnotes edition. So I grew up on a council estate, like your good self, in Batley in West Yorkshire, little town. If you've heard of Fox's Biscuits, that's where Fox's Biscuits factory is, in Batley.
They were tremendous. They were the ones I used to love dunking in.
None
of my clients ever do this now, but dunking in tea, not milk.
Yeah, you know that they're the posh ones because they come in wrappers. Grew up there, was not a sporty kid at all. I was a fat geeky kid. I've always loved like learning, and I was a big history buff. Didn't play out much. Like I said, my mum tried to keep us out of trouble, so she didn't let us play out much on the council estate because it was rough and ready. Yeah.
Were you Keegs? One of the parents, like my mum was like this, where I always felt like a mixture of embarrassed and pissed off that I was always the kid that had to be home earliest. Because my mum didn't want me out in the streets. Was that very similar?
Yeah, absolutely. And my mum would be the kind of person who'd go out and sweep a front step because she was proud of her house. Didn't matter that it was on a council estate.
Love it.
So that was kind of on her own. Dad wasn't about. I had brother and sister. I was the eldest, and I was always a big kid. Like you maybe can't tell. If you're listening on podcast,
I wouldn't have guessed it.
6'4", 6'5", 120 kegs. Now I've always been a big kid.
I love the kegs. The kegs, is that like the northern term for kilograms? For anyone American listening to this, they're probably thinking, what's going on?
Kilograms, yeah. It's about 18, 19 stone. It's a fair old bit.
Yeah.
I was always a big kid, but meek, mild. I mean, I look back at photos now and I was like, Mum, how did you not know I was gay? Like, it was screaming out at you.
What do you mean? How
like home movies. I can look back. Even me and my sister were talking about it and said, how did anybody not know I was gay? Like, I was always clutching my pearls, or the hand was always going, I was just, and I always felt like I was different. I didn't know why, but I felt like I was different from other kids. And I never really felt like I fitted in. I suppose with the council estate, like having to come home early, all that kind of stuff. But then one day, some guy turned up outside the house and he said, "Keegan, you coming with me?" And I thought, this is the stranger that my mum's been going on about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I ran in and I was like, "Mum, there's a guy," and she said, "Oh, I've spoken." It turned out it was one of the kids' dads from school. He was the local rugby coach, and he'd see me in the playground. Thought, big kid, he'll be able to play rugby.
What age was this?
11. Okay. So like year 6.
And you did no sport up to that point?
Done no sport.
Okay.
So my best friend, who I played rugby with all through my career, he's now a professional wrestler in WWE. He played, and I used to talk to him about it, and he used to say, "Oh, you should come down." And this was that particular team. I didn't know. Anyway, so he said, "Come with me, and we're going to get you to play rugby." Anyway, I went. All you have to do in rugby, for people who don't know, is you have to catch a ball and you have to run, right? I could not do either. And I couldn't do either for... Puberty was very good to me, let's put it that way. Suddenly I kind of became athletic, I could run, I could tackle, and I started getting noticed by professional clubs and scholarships, academies. Eventually got into... I was at Bradford, which at the time they were really good. They were like, you know,
that Bradford Bulls.
Bradford Bulls, yeah. So they would, at the time, they were like, you know, similar to when you were at Man United. They were actually good. They were winning trebles and cups and everything. So to be in that youth system was, you know, it was quite prestigious. Yeah. Wasn't good enough to get into, too young, and wasn't good enough to get into the first team. And then so I went and played in the championship for Dewsbury. And started to cut my teeth and work my way up there. Played rugby league, went on to play Super League, and, you know, which is like the Premiership. And, you know, I had a good crack at rugby. In the meantime, I met, when I was young 19, I met my ex-wife. And within 6 months of us seeing each other, she was pregnant, which was not something that I'd planned. But where I grew up, and it'll be similar for you, Kirk, everybody knew everybody's business. Everybody was this small town mindset. You know, you just grow up. My mum always hammered home. You grow up, you get married, you have kids, and you be grateful that you got spend a week in Alicante a year. Yeah,
because that's what people did.
Yeah, that's what people did. And so if you did anything different, you were weird, ostracised, thought you were too... I mean, that's a very northern thing, isn't it? Like, if you do better than other people, or you think you're better than us.
Yes.
So absolutely. It was very much a fit in at all costs.
Yeah. So just to backtrack, mate, you know, during that period, during like teenage years in particular, when did you... I know you said like very early on you realised something was different, but what mental battles did you have during those teenage years? For example, you know, at school and stuff, did you find that your friends, you congregated to a certain type of person, or like how? Yeah. Who did you tend to spend time with? Also, girlfriends and stuff like that. Did you have any girlfriends during that period?
Rugby was I really felt at home in rugby. I'm a massive team player. I love when we used to do goal setting. A lot of the lads would kind of go, they want to win personal awards, they want to score so many tries, they want to do. I want us to win a title, or you know, get promoted, or whatever it might be. I was always very team oriented, so I loved being part of that and the camaraderie of it. So I would hang around with the other rugby lads or other people who played rugby, even though I wasn't particularly good at it for certainly the first half of school. So I think when you start growing up and people start talking about girlfriends, and it was the time of Max Power and Nuts magazine, and do you remember all stuff like that? And you had like Nell McAndrew on the front with her boobs out and things like that. And I remember once being on a coach, it must have been a school trip, and all the lads were sat at the back, and it was like, who do you fancy? And it was like Nell McAndrew, Kelly Brooks, and I remember thinking, I don't really know what they're talking about. And I just thought, who's a woman who I know of? And I went, Carol Vorderman.
Really?
Yeah.
But deep down you had no attraction to...
I didn't fancy Carol Vorderman of then Countdown fame. I was wanted to fit in, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think when I look with the benefit of hindsight, I probably knew I was attracted to lads when I was, I don't know, maybe 13 or 14.
Yes.
But I just thought it was, maybe it's a phase, maybe it's something that everybody's experienced but we're not talking about. So it just kind of got buried down, and then I realised that it wasn't the norm, and so I was like, hope it'd go away. As we know, hope's not an effective strategy, really, is it? So, and I just repressed it, and put it down. And so when when I met, I had girlfriends. I'd girlfriend at school, throughout school. Again, it was probably more of a sense because everybody else had them, and I thought that I should have them. So yeah, I was always desperate to. I was always terrified of not fitting in. Which as I've gotten older, realised that that's one of my superpowers, that I don't fit in and that I'm a bit different. So then, when I met Sarah when I was like 19, when she got pregnant, it was, my dad had never been around, so there was a big thing of I want to be better than my dad was, and I want to be around, and so I kind of. Some of the things that they say that you need to be a professional athlete, they never talk about being stubborn, do they? And you need stubbornness just to stick it out and grind it out. And I mean, I've got stubbornness in spades. So I think, I was just like, right, I'm going to do this. This is what my mum said I should be, grateful, even if I've done it a bit younger than she might have wanted. I'll
Yes. What age were you?
So when Taylor was born, I was 20 years old.
Okay. So it's young. So you've gone through, probably from the age of 13 where you first started thinking, okay, I'm sort of attracted to men. You had 7 years from that point.
Yeah, and I'd never acted on it. Like I'd never, because the grinder didn't exist then. So
I've had a few profiles set up with me.
I've had a few that weren't me. I have been on it in the past, but
so anyone listening to this who thinks that they're getting tapped up by Keegan, it might not be Keegan.
It's probably not,
or me.
So that didn't exist at the time, and also small town. I was terrified.
Yes, what people thought.
Yeah, so I just repressed it and didn't really act on it, and then until I split up with Sarah when I was 27 years old then, and it was just so desperate to fit in at the detriment of my own mental health as well. I was in a really bad place with just escapism. From the outside you look in and you go, he's a decent looking lad, he's got a good looking girlfriend, he's got a kid, that he plays professional rugby, he's got a lot going for him, but that wasn't the life that I want. It wasn't congruent with what I didn't know what I wanted, but I also knew that I didn't want to hurt, my wife, my kids.
So you sort of were torn between two. So perception on the front end is, like you say, you've got that ideal perfect life, what society says you should have. You've got a partner, you've got a kid, say great career at that point. You're a professional sports athlete, which most people want to do. So the first one come along with 20. When did the second one? Yeah,
Fletcher was born. We got married when I was 23, and then Fletcher was born when I was 24. And then we moved into a house. It was really full on. So it didn't really give me chance to
evaluate.
Yeah, and I was just keeping on. I was dealing with a kid, deal with a wedding, deal with another kid, dogs, house. And then as that kind of settled down, then I was like, this is not for me. But I didn't want to upset anybody, and so wrongly I looked for ways, like coping mechanisms, and I drank a lot. I took so much drugs.
What age would you say, Keeks? Because obviously there's no judgment on this whatsoever, because I've been really transparent on, one of my own previous podcasts about when I had that shift in identity from being obviously let go by Coventry. It was within a few months I took drugs. It's no coincidence that happened. When did you first to do that? What do you think was the first tipping point? Because you obviously must have hit a threshold.
I think
you thought that was when it first happened.
I think I think the first time I took drugs I was probably about maybe 22, and I remember I smoked weed when I was 18. It made me sick, so I was like, it's not for me. And then I think someone offered me something on a night out, and I took it, and I wasn't really enamoured with it. It didn't really do anything for me. But I think as we went further down the track, and I went out more, and so and because I was going out so much, I wasn't just going out with my friends, because my friends would go, I'm not going out tonight. Whereas I'd go, I'll find somebody, you know, when you have going out mates.
Was this Keegs, because obviously at this point, obviously you're playing rugby.
Yeah.
Was this maybe after a game on a Saturday, or did it start to become a bit more frequent?
Usually we'd play on a Sunday, so it would every Sunday without fail. And I was working part-time then, I wasn't full-time yet.
Yeah, so what were you doing? So again, because I know things have changed in the sport world, whether it's rugby or it's football, and am I right in saying that even the rugby's always been a few levels behind in terms of pay, so it's not like, even though you were professional.
Yeah. So at the time I was part-time, I wasn't getting paid a lot, like a few grand a year, like we're talking less than 10 grand a year.
Yeah.
So it really supplemented people's lifestyle, but you get win pay and things like that.
And what were you doing professionally?
I had loads of jobs. I was a postie for a bit. I was a joiner I did an apprenticeship as a joiner.
Yeah.
Did that for about 6 years. Then I was a postie, worked in, and then I worked up to being an operations manager in they essentially made mattresses for caravans.
Yeah.
So I'd turn up on Monday in an absolute state, like my eyes painted on.
Because obviously, I suppose if you're, some context if you listen to this, is most sportsmen, you play a game, you might have the day off the next day, but you had to go back to work.
So we had to go.
You're basically hanging out your ass.
Yeah, literally hanging. Lots of Mondays didn't even go in.
Yeah.
And then it'd get to a point where I go out on a Thursday, because I didn't want to affect rugby on a Sunday, so I'd maybe do it Thursday, be hanging on a Friday.
You got a day to put
but
it
it's
back.
only half day. It's only half day, so you can just get through it. But yeah, so drinking, drugs, but even I'd go train more. I'd go training early, I'd train late, I'd do extra shifts at work, anything I could do to not be at home, because I just didn't it felt like a bit of a prison. Which sounds horrible, like now I have an incredible relationship with my kids.
Amazing.
But then I just thought all I need to do is provide. So I just tipped my money over that I got paid to the mum, and I was like, I'm doing my bit as a dad. I didn't have a role model, so I thought I was doing more than my dad ever did.
Yeah.
Which obviously now I realise, you got to be present, you got to be there, you got to be involved, which I am now. But at the time, I thought I'm doing a good job, so I felt exonerated of any guilt.
Yeah.
And it just became untenable. Obviously, the impact that has on relationships, like with Sarah. And I also didn't, so me and Sarah would argue a lot, and I didn't want my kids to grow up and think that was normal.
Yeah, of course.
That's what a relationship was.
Yeah.
So eventually, this had gone on for a few years. The damage was done. We split up. And then when we'd split up, I kind of got this bit of perspective, and you'll know this, like when you get that, just a bit of a respite, where you're not paddling and just trying to stay afloat, and you can actually just take a bit of time to assess what's going on.
Because I suppose, up to that point, Keegs, like, it sounds like everything you did through excessive working, I'm guessing through probably excessive training, excessive drinking, was you're filling every element of space, but it's all pain-led, it's sort of destructive, it's sort of like obsessive in every single avenue, because you're sort of trying to avoid what you're trying to face up to deep down.
Yeah, absolutely. It was 100% avoidance tactics.
Yeah.
And like you said, not in a constructive way, not in a, I'm going to work through this. It was just like sticking my fingers in my ears and going, la, 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 la.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I, separated with Sarah and I got that bit of time to reflect and go, kind of came to terms with the fact that I was gay, and this was a reason why I was behaving such a way, which was a nice revelation in one point, because I thought, I'm not actually an arsehole. This is not actually me. This is just behaviour that I have adopted to cope. But then I was also like, now what do I do? Do I tell people? Do I do I not?
So this was, we said probably, was it 2015?
Yeah, so this is like early 2015. We broke up, we separated. I started getting bold then and started venturing into gay bars in Leeds.
Who are you, again, I don't know whether you've brought this up on previous podcasts, your own podcast, mate. Was there anyone close at that point before you actually came out that you confided to?
No.
There was absolutely no one. So there was no like friend you trusted, or there was no. So when you were going to these gay bars, who were you actually going with?
Just going on my own and hoping for the best. And I would stand in a corner. I mean, like I say, I'm not innocuous. So I would stand in a corner, and I thought people probably think I'm a bouncer. And I remember going. They probably don't do this now. No one's done it to me for a long time. But I remember there used to be. It's not there now, but there used to be a place in Leeds called Mission 2, and the bouncer would go, "This is a gay bar." Like, you don't look like you want to be coming in. I was like, yeah, no, let me in quick. I don't want anyone to see me. So I go in, and I must have been seen. And I remember once on a night out, I went and told Sarah, because I just felt like I owed her it.
And how did she react?
I think she was just in shock, really, not well. And at the time, I couldn't actually say I'm gay. I couldn't verbalise it. It would literally I'm gay, literally stick in my throat.
I get it.
So I would just go. I kind of like lads. She was like, all right.
She had no inkling.
Well, she says she didn't. I mean, I don't know, but she says she didn't. So I suppose we have to take her at that. Yeah. And then I've kind of left it at that. And then one night after rugby, we'd had a few drinks, and some of the lads went, so what about these rumours that you're gay, Keegan? And I remember being on the spot and thinking...
How did you... Yeah, because, I mean, again, one of the reasons being Keegan getting so well is, we're as honest and straight talking and say, come, which is probably why, if you listen to this would have been so hard for you, Keegan, wouldn't it? When you are so true to the core and so black and white with your character, that must have been brutal for years, packaging that. How did you react when the lad said that?
I remember it must have been a split second, but I remember it feeling like an eternity, where you're weighing two things up. And I was going to do I deny, they used to call it the 3 Ds at rugby, deny. Or do I just go, come? And I remember going, what are the pros? And it was like a thing.
What did you say?
And I just thought, oh, fuck it. And I went, yeah, it's true. And then it was like, what's going to be the reaction? And I remember there was 3 lads there, and Joe went, all right. Rowie was a big hard bastard. He kind of just leaned in and gave me a hug. Yeah. And then he was crying, and I was like, what the fuck are you crying for? Yeah. I'm the one who's just come out. Yeah. And he went, I'm just sorry you've had to go through this on your own. And
unbelievable.
Like, they were really good about it. Yeah. And then they were like, can we tell other people? I was like, yeah. Like, I didn't want to advertise it, do you know what I mean? But then it kind of filtered out. The lads found out. They were all fine. Yeah. I told my coach, who was like a 60-odd-year-old bloke, and he was like, I don't care what you are, cock. Oh, cock. That's what he said. I don't care what you are, oh, cock. You're a rugby league player and you're my captain, and that's all that matters. I told my mum. She didn't take it well.
Really?
She said I was a disappointment. She was ashamed. She was...
Do you think that was based on her beliefs of, again, like...
Yeah, what she'd brought and what she'd brought us up with as well. But I'd kind of got to a point, like you just said there, Kirk, I'd spent so long lying to myself, to other people, it didn't sit well with me, and I was just like, do you know what, this is your problem. I'm not prepared to pretend anymore for somebody else. And so after that, then it kind of became public knowledge. It came out in the paper, and lots of things happened off the back of it. But I think that was probably the first time in my life where I was, I could fully be who I wanted to be, and a lot of growth kind of came off the back of that then, because I was like, I realised how much better life was by actually doing the things that I wanted to do, being the person that I wanted to be. So that was
2015. How did you bring that up to your kids? Did the kids find out publicly before you told them?
No, so I told the kids. So my son was 3 at the time, so he didn't. I told them both, and the kids weren't bothered. They were just bothered that mum and dad had split up.
Okay.
And then Taylor was 7, so she understood that a man could go out with a man and a woman could go out with a woman, and that was kind of it, really. Fletcher, I mean, I've come out to Fletcher about 5 times because he was like, "Dad, are you still gay?"
So he just wants to be sure.
Yeah, like he was just like, I don't know, I don't think he fully understood it. And then I introduced him to my then boyfriend, and they got on really well, and it was what it was. And the kid, like I said, then suddenly when I spent time with the kids, the time that I spent was actually, I spent less time with them, but it was better quality time, and actually got to know each other. And, we have a really, really, really good relationship now with both of them. So the kids took it really well. Kids are taught prejudice, like they're not just naturally dislike other. I feel like
the world's changed a lot, hasn't it? I mean, so after 2015, how did that affect your rugby in any way? Like,
rugby, I played infinitely better.
Really?
Yeah, so I went from being a good championship player to being a good Super League player. Like,
wow.
I got signed for Wake. I had a really good season. Captain Batley to the Rice finish. I mean, that wasn't all me, you know, it was all of us, but we certainly had like a special bond that year. Like, it was just felt like, it was really special. Then I got signed up to Wakefield. I mean, I was 29 when I made my debut in Super League, so everyone kind of thought, oh, he's too old, he's past it. Played pretty much every game for the next few years in a team that was in the top 5. So they were good, you know, good at the time. I mean, shit now, but it was good at the time.
Did you ever, Keegs, because obviously, look, every now and then you're still going to come across short-sighted people, especially when it comes to sport, or, you know, you get some ignorant people. Did you ever have any issues in any future teams, you know, where just someone may have had a problem, or even with fans as well, mate? Because I know how brutal football fans could be. I don't know, rugby's the same. Did you ever get any shit that tested your character and you were like...
I think rugby, team-wise, I didn't really experience anything. There was a couple of lads who... I got a feeling that they weren't 100% comfortable with it, but I also felt that they realised they couldn't say anything. They wouldn't say anything.
Because that would have been badly reflected on them, of course.
But, you know, sometimes you just kind of get a vibe off people. Other players on the pitch never had anything. The first few weeks after it came out publicly, I thought, this is going to be the week. This is going to be the week. This is going to be... And it never came, and it never happened on the field. A couple of instances with fans, but nothing really that I remember. I remember one from a Cass fan. We played at home. Wakefield and Castleford was like a local derby. And I remember I was warm up, and we used to warm up in front of the away fans. And someone said something like, I don't know, Hurst, you big puff, or something like that. And I just turned to the crowd, and I winked, and I just went, flirt. And so all the crowd laughed. And I didn't see the guy, but it obviously, I just thought, you're a dick. So let's let everybody laugh at you. But other than that, no, never, which I am really grateful for. And I think it does show, rugby is, you know, I mean, it's a northern sport, so we'll have anybody, you know, whether you're black, white, gay, straight. You know, we're happy to have anybody play it. So I think, and I remember like some of the fans, the old boys would go, you know, we're not bothered that you're gay, Keegan, as long as you're playing well. So that was nice to hear. As much as I probably knew it, you know, it's sometimes nice to just have it confirmed, isn't it?
And then during that period, because obviously I know now, obviously you love what you do with coaching. When did you start realising at that level, because I know you'll come back to it later, obviously you're going to dust off the boots again, but when did you start thinking about other things other than rugby? And how do you think, obviously, your story of evolving from, like say, suppressing who you are to now becoming who you are, did that play a part in your decision to obviously go into coaching as well?
Yeah, so I'd always coached younger. I'd either helped coach kids teams or with rugby, or I'd helped as I was getting older. I'd kind of helped with some of the younger lads coming through. But I never really wanted to be a rugby coach. But I'd always enjoyed the process of coaching, teaching someone something and then seeing them implement it and get better at it.
Do you think that was as well, mate? Because obviously you mentioned at the start that you were never very sporty. I'm quite surprised at that, because usually it's very rare for someone to not be sporty, to then play over 320 games at that level and get to Super League status, which for me, rugby is brutal, like, especially Super League. You've got to be fast, you've got to be strong, you've got to be powerful, you've got to be skillful. Do you think one of your passions, and obviously it's one of your major superpowers, of course, as a coach, is because you know, having not been remotely sporty, that if you apply yourself and follow a certain system and be around the right people, you can master anything? Would you say that's a large part of it?
100%. You know, like when you're growing up and there's those slogans around the changing room. And I remember there was one that was like, hard work will beat ability when ability doesn't work hard. And I didn't have a lot of natural ability. I mean, I know I'm a big thing, but skill-wise, like, I could always, the things that were in my control that I could practice, that I could work hard, that I could be fit, that I could be strong, those were all in my control. And I think as a coach, I never had a father figure. So coaches, I kind of like adopted father figures, whether they were coaches or mentors or whatever.
Yes. So sorry, mate, because I know it's quite personal, mate. You don't have to answer this.
Imagine that if I didn't answer now.
Yeah, imagine if you didn't.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
So you've got to answer it. You're my mate, you're fucking answering it. Your dad, obviously, I know you spoke about, you know, your mum and all. Have you never... What's your relationship back with your dad? What happened?
No. So my dad left my mum when... My brother and sister have got a different dad. My dad left my mum when she was pregnant, so before I was born. I never had anything to do with him. He made it quite clear that he didn't want anything to do with her or with me. Which, you know, it wasn't like he was in and out of my life, which some kids get. So I suppose, well, let's give him that. I met him once. His wife came up to me on we used to play a fixture on Boxing Day. Okay. And his wife came up. We'd always
what year was this?
God, I was still with Sarah, so pre-2015.
Yeah.
And this woman came up to me and she was like, "What's it like being in a room where your dad is?" And I honestly couldn't have told you what it looked like. And I was like, "What? Who?" And she went, "Your dad, Paul." And I was like, "I didn't even know he was in here. Like, it could have kicked me in the street, and I wouldn't have known who it was." And I ended up having a chat with him, and he said, he just kind of said, "Have you got anything you want to say?" And I had a few choice words. So I let him know what I thought of him, and that was it. I never. So now, because I think when I was growing up, I remember when we was playing rugby, all the kids' dads, my mum would go watch most weeks, but all the kids' dads was there, and I always felt that I was missing out on that. My dad wasn't there. Like, all these kids seem to be close to their dads, and I was like, you know, what's wrong with me that my dad doesn't want to be? And for years, I actually thought that was why I was gay, because my dad wasn't around.
Really? So how have you changed that story since, apart from obviously like hormonally and stuff, but how have you changed that story? Because I'm fascinated by this, King, because I think so many times the story we tell ourselves in relation to how we viewed who we need to be for our parents can shape us and hold us back for so many years. When did you sort of violate that story? So
I think as I got older, I'd tried reaching out a few times, and then I just thought, do you know what? I'm not the one who's missed out. He's the one who's missed out. You know, I'm a kid off a council estate. I've been a rugby, and every success that I've had, I mean, I don't even really think about it anymore, but every success that I had as I was, you know, even when I was struggling, I was like, I've done this without any leg ups. You know, I didn't know anybody who played rugby. I didn't know, nobody could do me a favour. Nobody, you know, lent me anything or did it.
No one's giving nothing to you.
Did it all off my own back. And I was like, do you know what? I can be proud of that. And, so that was kind of how it changed there. So I was like, you know what, you've missed out, and now I've got kids, and I think you miss out on. My kids are amazing kids, and you know they're not a part of your life. That's your loss. That I'm not a part of your life is your loss.
Do you think as well? Because I know this is where again I'm learning with this trait as well as you know I've expressed before. But I think one of your biggest you're very compassionate as well. Do you think had you not experienced again that disconnect from your dad or him not being around, that is again what's added to one of your extra superpowers as a coach, because you can you care basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you know, people will say to me, "Oh my God, you've overcome, you know, coming out, not having a dad, sport, divorce, you know, adversity." And I always think. I suppose I often downplay it, because I think, well, it was just my life. What was my option? To either, you know, roll up in a ball and die, or just get on with it. And I chose to get on with it. Don't get me wrong, I thought about rolling up in a ball a few times, but so, you know, a lot of people have then said, well, some people don't, just get on with it. And so, yeah, I have that, because I've been there where you've not, and one of the, coming back to what you asked earlier about getting into coaching, for me, coaching is so empowering to take a person. I know you're really good at this, because if the guys don't know, Kirk was my coach as well, and I'd kind of fallen out of love with training. So for someone to take a person and who doesn't necessarily believe in themselves, or you know, thinks that the best is past them or whatever, and say, do you know what, you absolutely can do this. I feel like a coach can believe in a person before they believe in themselves, and then for you as a coach to be able to tell someone that they can do something, for them to slowly start to believe, oh yeah, maybe I can, oh yeah, I have done that. And you see that momentum build and build and build, and then before you know it, they go, yeah, I can run a marathon, or I can bench press my own body weight, or I can do a photo shoot. And to know that you didn't give them that, but you give them, like a pushy stage mum shoves the kid.
You've influenced them.
Yeah, 100%. And I've been really lucky to have coaches who've done that. I've had mentors who've done it. I've had friends who did it. I remember when I went to sign for Wakefield, I was working at that factory, and I'd grown to hate it. Like, I loathed it because I knew that I could play rugby. I could play it professionally full time. And I said, I fucking hate this job. I'm gonna quit it. And my mate said, quit it then. Yeah. You're playing really well. Go for it. Quit it. I remember telling my boyfriend at the time, he was like, don't do that. Yeah. Like, don't. And I was like, nah, do you know what I am? I'm going to do it. And I quit. Yeah. Within a week, I'd signed a full-time contract. Yeah. Now, I don't necessarily believe in like the secret and stuff, you manifest things, but that was really weird. That it was like I'd made space for it. So yeah, I think having that, going through what I've gone through allows me to have that compassion. Being coached so much myself, I see the value in it of being able to help someone, guide someone. So yeah, I mean those two things, I think, because I really believe in coaching. Because there's so many people who are coaches who've never been coached. Yeah, and for me, all my success that I have had, I am not a one-man band, and I've had, whether it's been coaches, whether my mum ferrying me to rugby training when I was a kid.
But that's taught your values, isn't it, of going above and beyond. So I get it, and I speak about this myself all the time. Mate, is sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be a qualified coach. Relationships can be your coach with your family, or ex-partners, all these things. They just add to your armour as long as you choose to see it that way. But I think so many people are bitter and hold on to past failures.
Definitely.
Them. So when did you get into coaching? What year did you get into coaching? So when I did train first, did you go straight to online?
So when I was at Wakefield, we had a lot of spare time. When you're a professional athlete, you have a lot of spare time. And I thought, I'm not going to be playing rugby forever. My mate used to say being a rugby player is like being a ballet dancer. One day you get fat and old and they don't want you anymore.
Okay. That applies to most sports, by the way.
Yeah, it does. So I was like, I'm going to learn. I did my PT course, which I realised you don't learn a lot about PT in India.
No, you don't.
And then I thought, but then I did like Mark Coles's courses, and I wanted to be able to help people. Yeah. And I went straight in. I did the odd in-person session, but I went straight into online because I just thought I can help more people, and a lot of it's overcomplicated. The only thing that's difficult to convey, I think, with online coaching is training intensity. If people aren't aware of it.
Yeah, but also just to sort of add to that, because obviously I personal train obviously for a lot longer than Keegan, is there are also a lot of personal trainers, who are also shit at extracting intensity out of a client.
Rep counters. Yeah,
exactly. A lot of people, they've got the phone. I mean, I don't know about you, Keegan. I've been in multiple gyms before where I might have trained, but me and you could have been training today, for example, in a shit gym. I've been in pure gyms before where you've had the one of the trainers or the gym manager will come up to you and say, you personal training, just because you're training with your friend and you're doing it with intent. You clearly know what you're doing. But there's 25 people training in pairs in the gym, but they've come up to you. And so if you are listening to this and you think personal training is the answer, if you're ever going to invest in a personal trainer, make sure that you do your due diligence, because it's not hard to get a personal training qualification. No. And when you've got incentives in a lot of these gyms to do the personal training qualification with this gym, i.e. pure gym, and you're going to get qualified, they don't know fuck all. And so, whether someone's personal training for a year, 6 months or 10 years, ultimately, as Keegan will probably elaborate now what he does with PTiQ, we all know what actually shifts the needle. Once you've mastered training intent and technique is how you manage the 160 hours in a week. And I suppose on your side, especially specialising in gay people, mate, is the identity shift, because ultimately that's what it all comes down to for lasting change.
Yeah, exactly. We spoke about this earlier, didn't we? We'll get the body change, the body transformation, but then it takes a while for your identity and your personality and your mindset to catch up to be able to maintain 100%. This is why people get a result and then they go back on it, and people yo-yo. So I thought I can help people with this. It's not as complicated. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but it can be simple. And I just thought there was so much noise online, and I was like, I can do this online. And I started doing it, and then I realised that a lot of my following is gay guys, and they came in, and then, after me coming out, I thought in gay culture, there's a lot geared towards drinking, going out, and in and around sex. And I was like, well, what about people who, that's great. Don't get me wrong, I like drinking and I like sex. But if you're a person who wants to grow, as we all do, eventually that becomes a hindrance rather than help. So where's the communities that can allow people to grow, but still have that commonality of being gay? Because there is that different lived experience. There is that different aspect to, you know, feeling different and not feeling understood. Or and so I thought, do you know what? And that was why I created PTiQ, was because I wanted to create a coaching service, be a coach for what I felt that I needed when I was younger, or when I was coming to terms with the body that I wanted, but the person that I wanted to be as well.
Yeah, because I can only imagine that there must be thousands, if not millions of people, Keegan, on this earth, gay people who are desperate to love themselves a little bit more.
Yeah.
Look themselves in the mirror and like what they see a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like genuinely be at peace with the conversations in their own mind when no one else is around, more irrelevant of like the perception of how successful there is or how their life is on social media. And that must be the drivers too, because
there's so many of my clients are really successful, like your business owners or high, you know, doctors, lawyers, really successful guys, because they felt the need to overcompensate, because you know that story that people tell, I'll be happy when I've got this much money, when I can go on these holidays.
Do you think as well, mate, that's because like you say, they've had to, in their mind, they've told themselves a story that I have to be that successful in that area of life, which is the one area you can control, because obviously it's a skill set and you keep getting better, but it doesn't paper over the cracks emotionally and physically.
Because people because certainly growing up gay, you're made to feel less than. Think of all the language like, don't do that, it's gay, don't be gay, stop being gay. All that kind of stuff is like, well, I'm gay, does that mean I'm shit? There's that kind of stuff. There's this is a really, I know this sounds really insignificant, but there's a drag queen actually called Panty Bliss who really helped in Ireland with equal marriage, and there's this really good speech by her, and she talks about being gay, having to check yourself, because you can just how you walk, how you talk, how you carry yourself, and it can you'd like to think not necessarily in London where it's a metropolitan,
I get it,
but outside of the bubble of that, you know, just is it safe for me to go and hold my boyfriend's hand? And there's been many times when I've gone, and I actually remember being on we were flying to play Catalans in France, and I was reading a book it was about British gay history, and on the front cover was two guys kissing was on the cover, and I've been reading it for ages. I was stood in the queue in the airport, and I suddenly just became really self-conscious, and I closed the book up and I put it under my arm, and then I felt like a bad gay, because I was like, I'm supposed to be like this role model, this thing. I get it. And so this sense of feeling like you're good enough on the merit of who you are as a human being, as an individual, regardless of your sexuality, your job. You know, a lot of people experience that. Straight people, gay people experience like not feeling good enough, but to feel not good enough because of who you are, fundamentally something that you can't change, it can be really demoralizing for people and really lead to destructive behavior like it did with me. And so I've gone through that. I know how much of an impact that can have on life, but now I've come through the other side of it. I know how good life can be. I have a really nice life. I have a great relationship with my kids. I have a nice house, a nice business. I'm passionate about it. I have a boyfriend. I have a happy, healthy relationship. I like who I am. And don't get me wrong, I've still got things to work on, but through the other side of that is, and I've been, as I said, I've been lucky enough to get that from mentors and people who've gone through that themselves.
Yeah, but I suppose one thing there, again, which is why I don't know anyone on this earth who's specialised in your market, is there still be certain things, like you said, that the average coach cannot possibly connect with when it comes, when you haven't been through that first 10, 15, 20 years of being gay and wanting to truly express yourself. You know? I mean, what do you find are the biggest struggles, mate, with clients who first come to you? What is the biggest struggles, do you think, when your clients are first coming to you, and how do you help overcome that? How does PTiQ and what you do, how does that help overcome that?
So I think a big thing is people's relationship with exercise is a big one, because unlike me, who had a really positive relationship with sport as a kid, a lot of gay kids don't feel comfortable. You know,
well, and I suppose in a way, King, you fell into that by accident because someone just saw you were big, but that couldn't you, because for 11 years you told me you didn't like sport.
Absolutely. And this is why, so then gay kids will often go, well, I'll go to dance because I'm more welcome there, or drama or whatever. And so their experience of sport, the gym, feel that it's this super hyper masculine environment, which can be, but it isn't. Like, people don't care, do you, what you're doing in the gym? So I think that's a big issue, working over that. I think it's about people lean towards, and you'll get this, people lean towards the area that they're in control of, which is often work.
Yeah, because it gives them certainty.
It gives them certainty.
And significance, meets the needs we spoke about.
And the areas that, you know, being comfortable in their own, looking after themselves and being, you know, actually being able to sit down with themselves for 10 minutes, that's something that they can't do and they don't want to do because they don't know how to get there. So I think it's just people don't see where they can go. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that people say, I want to be better and I don't want to be like this, but I don't know where to start, what to do, where to go, how to get there. So I think just being able to give people that plan, you know, show all the case studies that we've got of people who've gone through that.
Yeah, I mean, because you must have transformed hundreds now over the past few years since you started with this. I mean, I've lost count the amount of transformations you've posted.
Yeah.
But yeah, what does a typical journey look like, you know, in terms of PTiQ? Because I know, like myself, you've multiple events, you do so many things where you're bringing the guys together, which we spoke about, for me is so important, you know, when you're trying to build that culture, that tribe and that environment to grow. But tell me a little bit about PTiQ itself, you know,
so
what
I think
it delivers.
It's just, we get people in. I always say the 3 pillars for me are build an incredible body, whatever that looks like, because that's different things to different people.
100%.
I've got 60-odd-year-old clients who just want to be able to move pain-free, and, you know, to be fair, my 50-year-old clients have trained, run rings around 20-year-olds.
And also as well, Keegs, we spoke about this, because obviously even when we joked about, obviously I've been on Men's Health, Men's Fitness, Keegan's been on Attitude, and he'll share this in a second, but I suppose the body thing is perception-led, isn't it? Because you've been on the front cover of Attitude, and you told me that, what was it?
I was on the front cover of Attitude, and granted, I wasn't in the best shape I've ever been in, and someone had left a comment saying, couldn't they Photoshop some abs on it? When I did my Abercrombie thing, I had abs there, and I was like, fuck off. But yeah, so first thing we do is it's building that. Then it's the mindset mastery, you know, to be able to be consistent, because that's a big thing. But our third thing, and I think the thing that I'm most passionate about, is living with authentic purpose. Is being able to do the things that you want to do for the life that you want, without feeling guilt, without feeling shame, without feeling that you're obligated to do something for somebody else. So I think that's kind of how we do it. We, like, as you know, Kirk, similar to yourself, we have an amazing community. We do amazing events. We were up Scarfell Pike this weekend. The guys, we've had guys who've come to us who've not been out, who've then come out while they've been in the group because they've been so inspired by other people. Yeah,
but you've obviously given the confidence, the safe environment you've created. Because again, I've spoke to your guys and you've created a safe environment. I spoke to an awful lot of communities in person, online, and you know, I think you've created that. You know, whatever you've done. I
think what my mission was with the community, and obviously I've been part of yours as well. So, you know, I know that, and seeing the transformations, not only physically but mentally, and how people grow, is giving people a space where they can grow into the new version of themselves. Because so many people have family members or friends that are like, why are you doing that? Because it shines a light on them, and it changes their perception of them, and it interrupts their life. So I think to give people the space where you can go, no, you be the person that you want to be. We absolutely want you as you are, but we want the new version of you, and we encourage that, you know. And then people go, oh, this is good. I want some more of this. So yeah, I think as a community, that's why your community works well. It's why my community works. You know, people come to get a result. People stay for the community. 100%. And you know, I've had clients who've been with me 3 years, whose goals have changed. First it was lose fat, then it was build muscle, then it was run them. I've had guys who've never run before and are running marathons or doing tough mudders.
But we all know goals change, even it's even in the past couple of years, Keeg. Like, obviously we did some work together, and then obviously we've been friends now. It's like, your body doesn't stand still, does it? And I think when you try and stand still, and even just maybe give some advice, having come from as a professional athlete where you've been in shape in some capacity your whole life, but I know you've done marathons, you've focused more on lifting, and because this is where people, I think, fail, is they just have that one target and think they've made it.
Yeah.
But then, just like in business, if you listen to this, if you're a business owner, if you get complacent or stand still, don't set a new vision, a new target.
100%. And you just feel, so you talk about this a lot, don't you? About you just feel unfulfilled because your expectations that you should be moving forward, you should be getting better, but you've not. There's nothing pulling you for. Pain will get you started. Well, pain will get you moving. I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to be ugly. I don't want to be lonely. We'll get you started, but you know, I want to achieve that because I want to feel that. I want to, I want to run that marathon. I want to lift that weight. I want to do that photo shoot. I want to be able to, do the whatever it is. That wanting to get there is what keeps you moving forward. And so, something we do and you do as well is that consistently managing goals and reassessing and setting new targets. I think it's so important.
Yeah, 100%. So what's the vision moving forward then, Keeks? Obviously, I mean, that's, I suppose because me and Keegan could talk all day, by the way, so we've got to protect time here. But obviously, Keegan's story has been monumental, obviously achieved so much, but what's the vision moving forward, personally, professionally, but with PTiQ? What's the goal? What drives you now?
Yeah, I think with PTiQ, it's impact. I think it's impact. It's wanting to be the person that I didn't have growing up that I wish I'd have had. So whether that's in the coaching side of it, someone to believe in the structure, the safety net of the group. So that's PTiQ. I'm also hoping to write a book. I've got a proposal in at the minute. Again, just being able to help people and just impart some kind of my experience. I certainly don't have all the answers, but just giving a different perspective on things, and just I think being able to empower people to know they're not alone. I went to New York Pride earlier this year, and I was at the parade, and I just started. It was a really nice atmosphere. And I just started crying. And my mate was like, "Why are you crying?" I was like, "Well, do you know what? If I'd have come here when I was a kid and seen that there was all this love for people who are different, who are not, maybe my life would have taken a completely different course." So I think to be able to empower someone and give them that, for me is really, really powerful. So I think that's my mission, is to be able to impact as many people going forward. Doing that, and just as you said earlier, I'm coming out of retirement next year. I'm gonna have another season with Batley. Because COVID kind of cut it short, and I thought I was done, but I've still got a few games in me, and one day I will be fat and old, and I won't be.
I doubt that very much. Listen, with that jawbone of his and that deep down that little bit of vanity, you can't be on the front cover of Attitude and not want to keep that chassis of yours. Mate.
Yeah, the blue steel.
I can't ever imagine Keegan Hirst being fat. So, and I'll
show you some old pictures.
Disappoint a lot of your famous fans on Instagram. And then I suppose just finally coming to a close, mate. Have you got any your most favourite quotes, or like even just sort of a biggest takeaway of anyone listening to this who is maybe doubting themselves in any way, or believes they're capable of more but is scared of taking that next step? What advice would you say to them?
I think the biggest thing that held me back from becoming the person that I am is not sharing that I was struggling and asking for help. Whether that's because I was a man, because I was northern, because I was a rugby player, whatever the reason was, I didn't want to ask for help. And as soon as I asked for help and I got it, my life grew infinitely better. Professionally, personally, relationships, the belief that I could be more, do more, have more. It all just smashed through the glass ceiling that I'd put on myself by keeping myself small. So honestly, if you're on the fence, just get someone who's been where you want to go. I just think the value in having that someone in your corner, like I said, even if you don't believe in yourself, finding someone that does believe in you and is willing to help you, I think it's one of the most powerful things that you can do as a human being, is to ask for help. And piggyback off them. That's what they're there for, to fulfill your potential. Because the worst thing in life is looking back. I came out at 27, I look back and I think, God, what if I'd have come out younger? But I know people who've not come out until they're 50, 60, or people who've not got in shape until they're in their 40s, 50s, and gone, God, I could have done this years ago if I'd just asked for help. So I think that would be my big thing, is don't struggle on your own when there's help out there.
Yeah, exactly that. Honestly, I speak about it as well, Keegan. It's like sometimes you need other people to expand your identity, to mirror traits in other people, to expand your identity, because ultimately that's what it's all about, is who you're trying to become, not what you have. You never remember what you have, it's like who you become. And that's where the power of community is so important. So, you know, if you're a gay man, or anyone listening to this who has resonated with Keegan's story, you know, I'm friends with a lot of coaches, and I know Keegan, you know, he humbly plays this down, but I'm friends with a lot of coaches and very ruthlessly straight talking. That's probably what me and Keegan got on. But you know, he's one of the best coaches on the planet, and if you are a gay man stuck, he is without question got the best community on the planet when it comes to gay men, gay businessmen. You know, so. Mate, we could talk all day. I just want to thank you so much for your time. Can you share where any listeners could find you if they wanted to reach out? Because I know your social media as well, you're so open with helping people. Yeah,
just Instagram's at Keegan Hirst, Twitter's at Keegan Hirst. So if you want to give us a follow on there, Keegan Hirst on Facebook as well. Just give us a follow, drop us a message, say hello. 100%.
So guys, thank you so much for listening. I'd love to hear your feedback on this episode, and Keegan, thank you so much for your time, mate. Mate. I'm sure we'll be hearing from the big man again, and you'll definitely be seeing him again as well. We've had a night out or two as well. Keegan, we're really good at having fun as well, by the way. So I know this has been pretty intense, but we're really, really good.
We'll do an episode about Kirk drinking coffee.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you next time.